Dear friends, we are going to episode number 28. We will go to rule 91 to 94 because I said earlier that rule 89 to 94 constitutes one scheme, and thereafter up to rule 104 another scheme where we will deal with it separately. Rule 91. Application by purchaser to set aside sale on the ground of judgment debtor having no saleable interest. The purchaser at any such sale in execution of a decree may apply to the court to set aside the sale on the ground that the judgment debtor had no saleable interest in the property sold. What is that application? An application by whom? Purchaser, auction purchaser. For what? To set aside the sale. On what ground? On the ground that the judgment debtor had no saleable interest in the property sold. Such application can be made by any purchaser, whether the decree holder purchaser or a stranger auction purchaser. Sometimes it may happen that the judgment debtor does not have saleable interest. It may be a latent defect sometimes a patent one, whatever it is. That is a ground which can be taken to set aside the sale. Why should the purchaser, because of the defect in title or no saleable interest, he should suffer? It is not the intention of the lawmakers, or it is not to help the decree holder alone and to realize the money and pay it, let the auction purchaser go to hell. No. If the auction, it is the duty of the court to protect the interest of the decree holder, to protect the safeguards, to protect the interest of the judgment debtor also by resorting to such safeguards as are provided under law, and also to protect the auction purchasers to the extent which are provided here. This is a provision which enables the auction purchaser to apply for setting aside the sale on the ground that the judgment debtor had no saleable interest in the property sold. And when that is made out, the sale will be set aside. Please note a judgment, 2000 volume 3 SCC 87, Kadiyala Ramarao versus Guttala Kannarao. I have also already cited in the last episode, you have noted. That is, the judgment debtor has no locus standi to apply under Rule 91. The question of saleable interest does not arise under Rule 90. So the judgment debtor does not have any locus standi here. Only the auction purchaser. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, every judgment debtor will raise an objection. I have no saleable interest in the property. There is a defect in title, therefore it cannot be sold. That is why in an earlier episode I said that there is a belief among at least some of the villagers that a co-ownership property or a property over which others also have some right cannot be sold in court auction. See, such statements we will see in the villages. See, how can he sell it? How can the decree holder sell it? He cannot sell it because it is a property which belongs to several persons. How can it be sold? Such discussions may take place in the villages, in the tea shops, in the barber shops and all other things. Now it is a vanishing category. Such discussions are not there. Now all big saloons, air conditioned, there is no talk. Now otherwise in the village, all the news will be collected, will be available in the barber shops or in the tea shops, village tea shops. So there will be discussion, there will be reading of newspapers. That is not the discussion with the CPC now, because I am comparatively older than you. I am saying that what was the position at that time when I was a young lawyer. So these are all the discussions, and when a witness is examined in court, that also next day it will be a discussion in the tea shops or barber shops, what happened in court. So many persons will give exaggerated versions about what asked, I answered this and that. Now such discussions are not there even in villages. Now, therefore, it is not for the judgment debtor to take shelter under this rule. He has no locus standi. Only the auction purchaser can make an application under Rule 91 and get rid of the land. Otherwise, what is the use? He gets the sale certificate. Then he gets the property or the title. But that is defective title. He cannot get at the property. He cannot enjoy it. He cannot take the usufructs. What for? And the scheme of the CPC is that it is not intended for the decree holder alone. It is not intended for the judgment debtor alone or option purchaser alone. All these category of persons are equally protected. So the procedural safeguards are to be taken to ensure this procedural justice, so that what is aimed at, it is not a technicality alone, a technicality leading to or aiming at justice. Various situations, we cannot comprehend all those situations. Various situations may arise. So why it is so? Why all these technicalities? It is not technicality alone. Sometimes it may be dry technicality, but there is a purpose for many of the such technicalities. Now, we will go to Rule 92. Sale when to become absolute or be set aside. Please see, where no application is made under Rule 89, that is to set aside the sale on the ground of by depositing the purchase money and plus 5% plus cost, or Rule 90, setting aside on the ground of material irregularity or fraud, or Rule 91, application by purchaser to set aside on the ground that the judgment debtor had no saleable interest. So again read, where no application is made under Rule 89, Rule 90 or Rule 91, or where such application is made and disallowed, the court shall make an order confirming the sale, and thereupon the sale shall become absolute. That is, confirmation takes place in these contingencies, where no application is made under 89, 90 or 91, or where such an application is made and disallowed. Then the next step is confirming the sale, and then the sale becoming absolute. We have seen under section 65 that the title passes on the date of sale, not at the date of confirmation, or the date on which the appeal was decided, or the date on which possession was given. All those things are irrelevant. The title passes on the date of sale when confirmation is made. That is, it will relate back to the date of sale, provided that where any property is sold in execution of a decree, pending the final disposal of any claim to or any objection to the attachment of such property, the court shall not confirm such sale until the final disposal of such claim or objection. If a claim is made or objection is made, we have seen under Rule 58, it is pending, the sale takes place. And such a pendency, the court shall not confirm the sale. Because it is pending, that is to be decided, or an appeal is pending against that. Say Rule 58 application was filed, that was decided one way or other. An appeal is filed because it shall be deemed to be a decree for the purpose of appeal, which we have seen in Rule 58. An appeal is pending, appeal was decided. That will have an impact, in which case the court may say, we will not confirm it until that. And we have also seen under Rule 59, Clause B, stay of sale. where before the claim was preferred or objection was made, the property was advertised for sale. The court may say, all right, proceed with the sale, but the sale will not be confirmed. Such situations also may arise. Sub-rule 2. Where such application is made and allowed, and where in the case of an application under Rule 89, the deposit required by that rule is made within 60 days from the date of sale, or in cases where the amount deposited under Rule 89 is found to be deficient owing to any clerical or arithmetical mistake on the part of the depositor, and such deficiency has been made good within such time as may be fixed by the court shall make an order setting aside the sale. So, an application to set aside the sale is allowed, then there is no question of confirmation. And the amount is deposited under Rule 89. 89 deposit is made. Suppose I have to deposit the amount. I make a calculation, amount, interest, cost, and all those things. There is a shortfall of 100 rupees. Does it mean that my application should be dismissed? No. When there is a mistake in the amount, the court will point out that, or the other side can raise an objection that the amount shown deposited is not correct, the deposit required is not made, and there is a shortfall, deficient, owing to clerical or arithmetical mistakes. It may happen. Usually what is being done on the practical side is, suppose say 1,12,000 is the amount to be deposited. What they will do is that 1,12,000 is the amount to be deposited. They will say, I am depositing 1,12,500. There is an excess. So that to cover all these things, it will be done. Sometimes, even then, sometimes there may be a shortfall. It will be pointed out. The court will allow that deficit to be made on a future date within such time as may be fixed by the court. And therefore, when an application is made and allowed, either under Rule 89, 90 or 91, the court shall make an order setting aside the sale, provided that no order shall be made unless notice of the application has been given to all persons affected thereby. Provided further that the deposit under this sub-rule may be made within 60 days in all such cases where the period of 30 days within which the deposit had to be made has not expired before the commencement of Code of Civil Procedure Amendment Act 2002. Now this is not relevant. Before 2002, here the words instead of in sub-rule 2, instead of 60 days, it was 30 days. Whereas in the Limitation Act after the amendment, it was 60 days. Then a question arose before the Supreme Court, whether the application should be made within 60 days or 30 days. And there, the Supreme Court said deposit must be made within 30 days, but the application could be filed within 60 days. Now, in 2002, this amendment is made, therefore it is uniform. And after this, amendment has no implication, probably several years passed. Now, therefore it is relevant only for that purpose. No suit to set aside an order made under this rule shall be brought by any person against whom such order is made. This rule an order is made, no suit will lie to set aside that order. There is relevance. Section 47. Section 47 says that all questions relating to execution, discharge or satisfaction of the decree shall be decided by the executing court and not by a separate suit. We will deal with Section 47 in detail. Where a third party challenges, please see sub-rule 4, where a third party challenges the judgmentor's title by filing a suit against the auction purchaser, the decree holder and the judgmentor shall be necessary parties to the suit. A third party who is not a party to the suit, who is not a party in the execution proceeding, he has got he may put forward a claim, and when that claim is decided, that is final, and it will operate as res judicata. But that stage is over. Nothing prevents him from filing a suit to establish his title. Or there may be a challenge to the judgment debtor's title by filing a suit against the auction purchaser. See, there is a dispute between the judgment debtor and a third party. By that time the auction takes place. It's stranger purchasers. And there is a title dispute between the stranger auction purchaser and the auction purchaser and the stranger who was not a party. Stranger claims title, and when he can, by filing a suit, he can establish his title. Who shall be parties? The auction purchaser, the decree holder, and the judgment debtor shall be necessary parties to the suit. It is not against the auction purchaser alone. All these persons must be made parties, and any decision thereon will be binding on all the parties, so that an effective decree can be passed by the court. That will be clear from Subrule 5. If the suit referred to in Subrule 4 is decreed, the court shall direct the decree holder to refund the money to the auction purchaser. And where such order is passed, the execution proceeding in which the sale had been held shall, unless the court otherwise directs, be revived at the stage at which the sale was ordered. What will happen? Suit is decreed. Suit filed by a stranger questioning the title of the judgment debtor is there. So the auction purchaser is a stranger. He is made a party to such suit. Decree holder is made a party. Judgment debtor is made a party. And the suit is decreed. That means the third party who puts forward title succeeds. Then what will happen to the auction sale? See, A is the judgment debtor, suit for money. A is the decree holder, B is the judgment debtor, C is the auction purchaser. Property is sold, B's property. A gets the money on deposit. C is the auction purchaser, C purchases. He gets a sale certificate on confirmation of the sale. Then C gets title and possession of the property will be delivered to him later. So, he is happy. Judgment debtor loses the property, decree holder gets the money. Third party is the real owner, who is not a party to all these things, not A, B, C, but D. D files a suit. Who shall be made parties? A, B and C. Suit is decreed. Then what is a possession? That means the judgment debtor has no saleable interest. Then what is the title of the auction purchaser? He will have no title. But by that time he had deposited the money in court and that has passed on to the decree holder. The decree holder will be bound to deposit that money in court. That money will be paid back to the auction purchaser. And then what will happen? The decree holder has to get money for which he has to revive the execution. That stage will be there. We will read again. The suit referred to in Subrule 4 is decreed. The court shall direct the decree holder to refund the money to the auction purchaser. Auction purchaser had spent the money. That will be refunded to him. And where such order is passed, the execution proceeding in which the sale had been held shall, unless the court otherwise directs, be revived at the stage at which the sale was ordered. So that the execution petition automatically gets revived by an order of the court. And then some other proceedings will take place in the execution if it is possible. And if there is any other item of property that can be sold, or even the decree holder may apply for arresting and detaining the judgment debtor, or any other process of law as per law can be taken against the judgment debtor, continue, and if possible it will succeed. So this is the process. Please see a decision. Not much decisions are there on Subrule 5. I am not explaining because the facts are to some extent lengthy. Matters are there. If your time permits, you read one decision. 2011 2 KLT. 2011 2 KLT 1050 1050 K Balan versus State Bank of India Trikkadiri. Trikkadiri is near Ottappalam. This is a case which troubled me to a great extent. I found it very difficult to arrive at a conclusion and to write the judgment. Please, if you get time, read. That may give an indication as to how it should be interpreted, various nuances of it, various circumstances which may arise in the execution proceedings, etc. are provided, are mentioned there. Rule 92. Now we will go to now we see I said I should have mentioned earlier when I mentioned about Deshbandhu Gupta's case. Deshbandhu Gupta's case, it was held that pre-sale illegalities are covered by section 47 and post-sale illegalities are covered by Rule 90 of Order 21 and others. What is at stage? Pre-sale stage. What is an end of it? What is a commencement of post-sale illegality? These are discussed in a decision by Justice Thomas P. Joseph. Please note there, pre-sale and post-sale illegality, you may make a note. 2010 4 KLT 2010 4 KLT 189. I should have mentioned it, but I omitted to mention it. Yes, with that we will come to Rule 93, return of purchase money in certain cases where sale of immoral property is set aside under Rule 92. The purchaser shall be entitled to an order for repayment of his purchase money, with or without interest, as the court may direct, against any person to whom it has been paid. What is that? A is the decree holder, B is the judgment debtor, C is the option purchaser. Sale is set aside under Rule 92. 92.5 we have seen. This sale is set aside on any of the grounds, either under Rule 89, 90 or 92. Then what will happen to the option purchaser, decree holder and judgment debtor? Decree holder wants to get the money. Property of the judgment debtor is sold. Auction purchaser deposited the amount. That amount was given to the decree holder. He is satisfied. Judgment debtor, after setting aside the sale, the decree holder has to return the money. The purchaser shall be entitled to an order for repayment of his purchase money. Because the money has been paid by the auction purchaser. Sale is set aside. So he will not get title. He will not get possession. So he loses the money also. That should not happen. He must get back his money. The purchaser shall be entitled to an order for repayment of his purchase money, with or without interest, as the court may direct, against any person to whom it has been paid. Paid normally to the decree holder. Then Rule 94. Where a sale of immoral property has become absolute, the court shall grant a certificate specifying the property sold and the name of the person who at the time of sale is declared to be the purchaser. Such certificate shall bear the date, the day on which the sale has become absolute. So that is a document which will be given to the auction purchaser. Normally when a property is sold, I sell the property to you. I am the title holder. I sell the property to you. I have to execute and register a document. That document should be on stamp paper. The required rates of stamp must be supplied. It must be engrossed on that, written on that stamp paper, and it shall be presented before the sub-registrar. It will be registered. The registration charges will be paid. Now, what will happen to the court sale? The sale certificate issued, and then please read Rule 345 of the Civil Rules of Practice. What should the certificate contain? The number and year of the suit, the names of parties, the date of sale, the date of confirmation, the sale price, the name of the certified purchaser, and the date on which the sale certificate was granted, and also the property sold with all particulars as to the extent and nature of the interest sold, the registration district, taluk, village, survey number and subdivision number, and the boundaries of the property. 346 Civil Rules of Practice, Rule 346, copies of certificates to be sent to the registering officers. Copies of sale certificates shall be transmitted to the registering officer within the limits of whose jurisdiction the property comprised in such certificate is situated. Where a court sale is set aside after the transmission of the copy as aforesaid. So when a sale certificate is issued, it will be, normally sale certificate will not be issued pending an application to set aside the sale. We have seen under Rule 92 that when no application is made under 89, 90 or 91, or where such application is made and disallowed, the court shall confirm the sale, and then the sale will become absolute. Then only the sale certificate will be granted. And Rule 94 also said, where a sale of immovable property has become absolute becomes absolute under Rule 92. But there may be different situations where the sale certificate may be issued, subsequently the sale is set aside. All those situations may arise. Copies of sale certificates shall be transmitted to the registering officer or officers within the limits of whose jurisdiction the property comprised in such certificate is situated. That is Rule 346 of the Civil Rules of Practice. Sub-Rule 2 therein says, where a court sale is set aside after the transmission of the copy as aforesaid, the court shall communicate a copy of the said order, or if there has been an appeal or revision, the appellate or revisional order, as the case may be, to the registering officer or officers to whom the copy of the sale certificate has been transmitted. Suppose no application is made under 89, 90 or 91, or when such application is allowed and disallowed, the court shall confirm the sale. The sale will become absolute. Under Rule 94, the court will grant a certificate of purchase. Certificate. Then, pending, there is an appeal pending against the order in execution, which is to be treated as a decree, or from the decree itself there is an appeal pending, or various situations may arise where the decree confirming, where the order confirming the sale may be set aside. In such case, where it is communicated, transmitted to the registering officer, and subsequent order is passed, the court shall transmit that order also, so that all the relevant details with respect to court sale also will be available before the registering authority. Then, delivery of property in the occupancy of judgment, Rule 95. Before going to Rule 95, I will refer to two decisions. One is AER 1987 Supreme Court 1443. AER 1987 Supreme Court 1443. When an application for setting aside the sale is made, the order passed by the executing court, either allowing or dismissing, will be final and effective. And it cannot be said that even though no, so and so, so and so. It is final. Barred by second application will be barred by res judicata. I do not know whether I have cited already. Then another question which was argued before the Supreme Court. You see, any argument can be advanced. See the various points that could be raised. That is the innovative arguments or the ability of the lawyers, the proficiency of the lawyers, all those things can be seen. Whether time can be extended for filing an application under Rule 89 was the question which was argued before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court in 1994, 4 SCC, 1994, 4 SCC, 177, Mohanlal versus Hariprasad Yadav. It was held that time cannot be extended. Section 5 of the Limitation Act has no application. So also Section 148 CPC cannot be availed of since the time was not fixed by the court. Section 148 of the Code of Civil Procedure provides that when time has been fixed by the court has power to extend it. There was no ceiling limit. Now after the amendment of 2099 and 2002, the maximum time limit was fixed at 30 days. Now in Salem Bar Association 2, it has the Supreme Court has held that it is not a rigid period. In appropriate cases, the court can extend the time. Anyhow, it can be extended provided it is not a statutory fixing of time. It is a time which the court granted. The court said you deposit the money within 1 month. That period can be extended by the court under Section 148. Or the period of limitation which can be extended under exercising power under Section 5, provided it is an appeal or an application other than an application under Order 21 of the Code of Civil Procedure. You filed an appeal is belated by another by 50 days, 100 days, 1 year. The appellate court has power to condone it, that is extend it. But here, Rule 89 application comes under Order 21. Section 5 of the Limitation Act specifically deals with appeals, applications other than an application under Order 21 of the Code of Civil Procedure. So Rule 89 comes under Order 21. So the time fixed there in 60 days, it cannot be extended by any court. That is what the Supreme Court said in Mohanlal versus Hariprasad Yadav. So such arguments were also advanced before the Supreme Court. See, one may say that no, these are all foolish arguments and all those things. No, there may be formidable arguments even in such cases. So that is how the law develops. Sometimes the argument may be unattractive, or you may say that is point bereft of any merit, bereft of it is not acceptable and all those things. There is no final word. It always grows. Yes, we will see the other rules in the next episode. Thank you.